You're smart, you're motivated, you want to do something big. You're on the verge of being a young boss, and we're going to help you get there. I'm your host, Isabel Guarino, and welcome to the Young Boss Podcast, where youth is your power. Nobody cares about you as much as you care about you. Harsh. This week, we sit down with the $1 million man who went from sleeping on a camping cot rent-free in his buddy's basement to selling $40,000 coaching and consulting courses to talk about how sales solve problems, why a little bit of humility goes a long way, and why sales isn't that hard. My number one salesman at the RAL Academy divulges his secrets to success in high-ticket sales. This week's guest is none other than Kellen Regalado. You're listening to Young Boss with Isabel Guarino. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Kellen, how old are you?
I am 27.
When did you get started in sales?
My first sales job, I was 20.
20?
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to be good at sales?
No, but I should have, because I'd been, selling people on my ideas as long as I can remember. I guess really my first sales job was back when they used to, in schools, do like child labor and make you sell. We sold like gift wrap.
Yeah.
We would have the magazines.
Okay. Child labor.
Yeah, it's like child labor. And it's like a fundraiser.
Yeah.
So when I was in like fourth grade, I would just door knock every single house in my neighborhood.
Okay.
And that was like my first introduction
You were
to selling.
unafraid.
I didn't even know to be afraid. So I was like outdoor knocking, which is like apparently, most people consider like the hardest type of sales. I was like in fourth grade, and I would bring the magazine in the order form, and you sold like wrapping paper, and they had like all kind of tchotchke stuff.
Yeah.
And that year I sold so much that I actually got like all the prizes, and I won all the way up to the Game Boy, and I was one sale away from the Xbox.
Wow.
And my mom told me, you can't sell anymore because we already have a PlayStation. We're not going to have two.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that was like my first selling experience.
Wow. So, and that's when you realized you were probably kind of good at this.
Yeah. And I mean, it would have been nice to have a teacher that told you that, right? Like, not like you should, be a firefighter. Somebody that's like, hey, maybe look at that.
Maybe look into this. You did win it.
Yeah, you did win it.
Okay, I love that. Do you think in your personal sales journey that youth has been an advantage or a disadvantage to you?
I think early on, like when I was 20, it was both.
Yeah.
Because I started in fitness,
okay.
Right? So it's tough because when you're selling to like a 45-year-old mom, they're kind of like, you don't understand my battle. I've had 5 kids or whatever. Yeah. So that was always tough. But I think the advantage to it is like you're so young and you're kind of dumb. You're young and dumb, right? So I used to stand on the stairs and just talk to every person that would come up the stairs.
Unafraid.
Yeah. And I would do finding people's target heart rates, right? And I don't care if you're Mr. Olympia walking by or the person who's their first day in the gym. I'm talking to everybody. So that's something I feel like as you get older and you get more experience, you're less like, oh, I'm not, gonna get dirty, not gonna get in the trenches. But when you're young, you don't know any better.
I know now you're a sales manager. So do you ever have to talk them through not being intimidated by someone's age or experience? Because maybe it's not something you're afraid of, but with the other guys you're training up, are they ever timid and afraid of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, definitely like intimidated, not just by the age, but also the experience. And specifically like our industry, we sell to, it's like a niche, but it's also a pretty high level. Like when you get into high ticket sales, you are selling to people that have more experience. And you might be selling to, I mean, when I first started selling what I'm selling now, like in our industry, I was sleeping on a cot in my buddy's room. Yeah. I was like, my car had just broken down. I had nothing going for me. Really?
And you're like, this will make you.
You can do this. You can change your life.
And you go to bed on the cot.
And I would go to bed on a camping cot in my buddy's room.
Yep.
But, I didn't ever identify that as like who I was. That was just a situation I was in.
It was a situation.
Yeah.
It was a situation and the sales helped you get out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you've sold over $1 million in 1 year. How old were you when you hit that goal?
I think the first year I hit $1 million was 25.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was a huge milestone.
What was the difference between the years before and that year?
A couple things. One, obviously just the experience, being in sales long enough and just believing that you can talk to anybody and you're worth talking to anybody. And there is like a tipping point, right? Between the person that's sleeping on a cot and is faking it till they make it.
Yeah.
And then the person who's like, no, I actually am doing well in life. Like I actually can guide you. I'm actually going to solve your problems. Right? So that's like the make it side.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I think just believing, it's possible. And then also selling the right product. Like in fitness, you're going to need 100 years to get to $1 million in sales.
Okay. So the right product, you really believing in yourself, that mind shift between saying like, I don't have it and I'm pitching this to you. And I'm also kind of pitching it to myself because I want to believe in this too. I want to get there too. Versus once you're like, I've got it. Like I'm there. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've been there. That helps too.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, when you're telling someone about like, you can enjoy your life, you can make this income, and you haven't yet, you're like you're like standing next to them instead of leading them versus when you're actually there, you say like, no, I know what this looks like on the other end for you. Like, follow me,
Yeah. Is there a critical skill that somebody needs to develop to be successful in sales?
I would say the most critical skill is the consistency.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of a skill this is, but it's all about state management. When I first started in sales, I remember a good day was a day that we got to sell. And a bad day was any day that we didn't. Yeah. So it's like I would leave work and oh my God, the roller coaster, right? Like oh my gosh, I have to head for the donut shop at the end of the day. I don't drink. I guess most people go to the bar, but for me, it was like, I'm going to stop at McDonald's and I'm going to eat my feelings because my life does not have value because I didn't sell today. Okay. So learning to identify yourself with your efforts and the inputs that you put in rather than the output. That's everything.
And I think that's so true because it is really hard when somebody first starts in sales and they hit 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of no sales, a week of no sales. And it's like, oh my God, do I have a job? Like, am I okay? Well, especially when you're commission. Like you are now stressed out. Like, what about my family? What about this? What about that? And I do think youth is an advantage in that regard.
Yeah.
If you have less responsibilities to have to worry about. You're worrying about you, yourself, and I, right? Like that is your responsibility when you have kids and the house and this and the wife and this, that, and the other. It's a lot harder to just be like, it's okay, I didn't make any sales this month. Like, we're going to be good. Like, you're like, no, we have to do something.
Yeah.
So it's not even youth, but it's less responsibilities.
Yeah. I mean, I'm married now. I can't sleep on a cot in my buddy's room rent free while I make it, So it's a lot easier to do that at 21 years old. And just like, for a year, I didn't even own a car. I owned a motorcycle and a backpack that I would go grocery shopping with, right?
Yeah.
You can't really, as your life gets more complicated, you can't take such big risks like that.
You were clearly hungry at that point, maybe physically, but also, but also financially you were hungry. Is that something you look for when you're hiring?
Yeah, absolutely. Just someone who's just hungry for more out of life. Because the job is hard. Sales is hard. Yeah. Like it's not turnkey. Like it is going to be challenging. You are going to have to manage your own emotional state. So finding someone that has a big enough why at the other end is going to be everything because that's what's going to push them through the tough days. Yeah.
What's been the most transformational experience you've had in sales?
I think probably the biggest transformational experience was realizing that this is like a job. Like I've said for years, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life until I was already doing it. Like I hated the question of what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah. I never knew. Yeah. I never knew until the point where I just started lying and just picked something.
I just asked you that last week. What do you want to be?
I was like, I just decided in high school, I was like, I can't take it anymore, I just decided physical therapist. Yeah. Somebody asked physical therapist, I'd be like, oh yeah, physical therapist. And then great, they just move on with the conversation. Yeah. So like knowing earlier in life, which there should have been like a lot of indicators. I talked to everyone at every table I was ever sat at throughout my entire school career. They should have been like, hey, you're really good at connecting with people. Maybe you would. Did you know there's a job where all you do is talk to people? Like you don't have to have any skills outside of just conversing with people. Yeah, I don't know if I sent you this TikTok, but I always send you TikToks about sales, right? And there was one that I saw this week and it was like, I don't know how salespeople do it. They just wake up and flirt with people all day long. And I was like, I need to send this to Kellen. It's like just like a natural born, like doesn't matter if you're man, woman, old, young, just like, hey, how are you? Hey, what do you want in life? Let me help you get there. Yeah, absolutely. And like I tell my guys all the time, and not to degrade any salespeople or anything, but like this job is not that hard. My dad worked construction growing up. I tell my guys all the time, I say, hey, look, we're not swinging hammers, guys. Like you wake up, you're, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. Oh, this deal fell through. Guys, come on.
It could be a lot worse.
You talk to people on the phone for a living. Like,
Yeah.
there's harder things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do some quick fire.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's one book everybody needs to read?
Simon Sinek, Start With Why. It's not like a sales book, but if you can understand why people do things, that is sales.
Okay. Favorite sales-focused podcast?
I really like Jordan Belfort. He has a podcast, I think it's called The Wolf Den.
Who's the best salesperson you know?
You know, actually, probably someone who's like doesn't even work in sales, but my dad.
Okay.
Like he doesn't know that he has like sales abilities,
Yeah.
but he will ask any question, which is huge, and he has zero filter. So
Unafraid.
unafraid.
He's the most unafraid man I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's your biggest sales role model?
My biggest sales role model. I definitely look up to, I'll give a couple.
Okay.
One, I would say I love like Grant Cardone, not for his like actual sales techniques. I don't really believe in the way that he sells, but in his like 10x mindset, I think you have to have that in sales, just that fearlessness.
Okay.
And then from like an actual technical perspective, I love like Jordan Belfort and Tony Robbins, just kind of, they really break it down to a science.
Okay. What's your dream sales job?
Dream sales job.
He works for me, but he's not going to get fired for this
Yeah.
one.
I don't know. Probably just selling it's always about selling something more expensive, I guess.
Okay.
Or maybe even something like probably like personal coaching or something like that, like life coaching.
Okay.
I think that would be a really fun thing to sell and hopefully fulfill on, right? I think it would be
Okay. I
fun to
love
be in
that.
something like that.
Let's talk about what type of sales you have done or what you're currently doing. So
Sure.
just break it down for us. What have you done and what are you currently doing?
Okay, I've done my first stuff was selling door to door. Red Apple gift paper. Shout out to them. Shout out for the free Game Boy Color. And then obviously I was like fourth grade. That doesn't really count. And then I worked in retail all through high school and into college, which is not really like sales. It's more like learning how to just deal and talk to people. But that still was valuable learning.
Yes.
Then first job after I dropped out of college was selling personal training,
Yep.
which is really tough.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like it's a cheap product. And I tell people now, like I would spend hours with someone to get them to pay $180 a month for personal training. And like the amount of trust and build up and like proof that you have to deliver someone to give that versus selling something, you know, now I sell $40,000 training over the phone.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, right?
Night and day.
Night and day. Night and day.
Yep.
So, and then obviously now selling consulting and courses. Yeah.
Can you explain what B2C sales are versus B2B sales?
Yes. So B2C would just be basically sales to like a person, an individual. Then B2B is sales to a business.
Yep.
So I've done like our corporate partnerships and stuff like that. The major difference with that is when you're dealing with a person, you're dealing with all the emotional reasons to buy now. Versus a company, you're dealing with like the logical reasons to buy now. And when a person tells you like, hey, I need to talk to my wife or whatever, you need to like flesh out and make sure that that's actually true and that there really needs to be like a decision made. But oftentimes a person can make a decision without their significant other. When you're talking to a COO and they tell you like, I need to talk to my CFO.
You're like, yeah, you do.
You do. They do. So when they tell you like, hey, we're waiting for our C-level meeting on Tuesday to make this decision, they are.
Yeah.
So it becomes kind of babysitting and following up with B2B.
Yeah. It is a different sale because it is more logical, less emotional, and it's more, depending on how many decision makers are involved, that can delay the process a lot.
It's hurting cats way more.
Yes. Okay. Leap job reports only 2% of sales calls resulted in closed sales. That is insanity. What is your closing percentage?
I close usually between about 25 and 30%.
Wow. What is your team?
We're right around 15%.
15. What are your goals? What do you want to be at?
Would love for the team to be at 20%. And if I can be at 30, that makes me happy.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That is terrible. 2%. We were talking about this before the podcast and I was like, oh my God. But we're thinking it's might have to have cold calls in there.
Yeah, might have cold calls, might have voicemails in there. But I mean, I've worked with a lot of salespeople. It's really hard to find good salespeople. That's for sure. So
okay.
There's some people out there closing at 2%.
You guys are kicking ass.
You.
I love it. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Okay. Sales' biggest enemy oftentimes is the marketing team, right? What is the difference? How do you work together? What are things that people who are listening, who are building out their sales team and their marketing team, how should they be working together? And what are some things to like be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, they have to go hand in hand, right? Like everything that you do has to have, we used to call it like an almanac, right?
Yeah.
So the founder of our company, right, Gene, we would call it like the Gene Almanac. So
Yeah.
it's like everything that he said on stage had to not only sound the same when your salesperson said it,
Yep.
it also had to sound the same when someone was reading it.
Yep.
So it all has to flow together. And it can, marketing and sales can be at odds, or they can work together.
Besties, yeah.
But at the end of the day, each kind of department accountable to the last one, right? So it's like marketing has to take it from sales, hearing about this or hearing about the leads. And then operations has to take it from sales, like, fulfilling on everything. And then sales has to take it from compliance and finance. And it just all kind of is in a circle. Everybody's got checks and balances, and everybody has expectations.
It is. I love that. When it comes to the psychology of sales, are there any particular strategies that you are drawn to that you're like, this really, it works no matter where I implement it?
Yeah, two. So Jordan Belfort, straight line selling. I know Jordan Belfort gets obviously a horrible rap because of like Wolf of Wall Street. And like, fair enough.
Yeah.
But
great movie.
Great movie. And his selling tactics do work. And
Yes.
you can use them responsibly. I think it's all about what you're selling. And then Tony Robbins has a course. It's like from the 90s, I think. It's called Mastering Influence.
Yep.
And it's the most scientifically broken down sales course. Like it will teach you the actual psychology of why someone goes from not purchasing with you to flipping over the edge and actually buying.
Let's talk about pain and pleasure. All decisions are made on pain and pleasure. How do you use that in sales and turn it up or turn it down?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, most people, I call it carrot or stick, right? You can either chase the carrot that's dangling, or you can run away from the stick.
Yeah.
Most people are stick people. Like, it would be nice to be a carrot person, but most people, you can amplify the pleasure of all the rest of it. But if there's not something to push them away from what they're already doing, they're just going to stay at rest. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing. So I think it's all about painting the picture, giving them, hey, yes, here's the thing that you want to go get.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, until you amplify the pain of whatever it is, the job, or, not having enough money, or not being able to provide for their family, or in our case, mom or dad not having a place to be, that like, those are the things that get people out of bed in the morning, not just the thought of that would be nice.
Yeah. How do you find their pain and pleasure?
Discovery. I mean, you got to just ask questions. And I mean, that's what's huge. Is like most salespeople, I think, know the question they have to ask, and they're scared to ask it because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to ask somebody that question and to keep going deeper with a stranger, right? But I mean, I've had people cry on the phone with me.
Yeah.
And people will open up to a stranger.
Yeah.
More than probably their friend, right? That's why people go to therapy, right? So you can have an unbiased,
just gonna say that,
right? You can have someone from the third party, from the outside, that you don't have to worry about their judgment.
What they think about
you.
Yeah,
exactly. And they don't have all the preconceptions about you that your best friend does, or so they're able to open up and really tell you and be vulnerable with you.
Okay, so you think that they're afraid to ask the right questions?
I think a lot of times a salesperson knows the question that they should ask. And should's like a dangerous question, right? You should all over yourself.
Yeah.
But the question they should ask, and they don't.
Because fear of themselves?
Yep. It's internal.
This is really interesting because I think that is so true. And I do think sometimes even when we listen to the calls of your team, it's like, oh my God, why didn't they just ask that question?
Yeah.
And if you're saying, no, they probably knew that they should, they were just afraid. They were holding back for whatever reason. And I know my dad, worked with you in sales in the beginning. And one thing he would always say to all of us, but especially my brother who was in sales with you, was no one cares about you as much as you care about you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you're getting at, is like, it's almost in your head. You're so worried about, what does this person on the other line think about me? If I ask them this, like, what are they going to think about me? They're not thinking about you.
They're not thinking about you at all.
They don't care about you.
Yeah.
There's like a thing. Everyone's tuned into the WIIFM, What's in It for Me channel. No one cares about you. They all care about themselves. Everyone's walking around thinking about themselves. And if you stop thinking about yourself and focus on them for 2 seconds, you could probably ask the right question and get the sale.
Absolutely. And that's why I believe, like, put your script in front of you. Like, you shouldn't sound scripted.
Yep.
But I leave my script up on my computer.
Yep.
Because then you at least have the visual cue and you go like, look, that's what I need to ask. Can I just work up the bravery to ask them one more uncomfortable question?
Yeah.
Right? And it is uncomfortable when you're talking about, like, I mean, oftentimes, certainly in our industry, we're talking about money.
Yeah.
So you're asking questions like, how much did you make? How much do you want to make?
Yeah.
I ask people literally, how much money do you have in your bank account?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's an uncomfortable question to ask. And especially in our society where you're taught, like, you can't don't talk about money.
Yeah.
Don't ask somebody how much they make.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the first 5 questions that I'm asking somebody is literally, how much money do you have in your bank account?
Yeah.
Because that's either gonna inform your decision one way or another.
Oh yeah.
Right? Especially if somebody tells you, well, I got millions of bucks, I'm just kind of doing this for X. It's like, okay, I'm not going to lean into the income part.
Right.
I'm going to lean into, the why of, oh, my mom needs to care, or, the social impact. But if somebody tells you like, I have X amount, but I hate my job and I need to quit it right now, it's like, okay, now we can lean into the financial, you need to replace this.
Yeah. Very interesting. I love that. Hey you, why waste time scrolling through social media when you could be learning how to raise capital, manage a team, and be a boss? It's time to level up and hit that subscribe button for the Young Boss Podcast. Now, back to the show. Is there a psychology within sales that you do not find successful? That you're like, this is not good?
Yeah, so going back, I love Grant Cardone. I love like all his stuff.
Yeah.
And when I first started selling, he has a book called Closer Survival Guide. Mm-hmm. And at the end, it has like 500 closes that you can use, right? That is what I would call like hard closing.
Yeah.
And I'm not personally a believer in like hard closing a sale. And basically that would be, for instance, one of the closes would be like, I need to think about it. Hey, Isabel, let me ask you, think about an elephant. Think about hammering a nail. How long did that take you? Just a second, right? That's how long it takes to think about something. What are we talking about here? Just go ahead and let's get you started. Stuff like that. You can close deals that way, and you can browbeat someone into buying.
Yeah.
They're going to come in on your off day, and they're going to cancel and get refunded.
Yeah, because you just pushed.
You just pressured someone into buying.
Yeah.
They didn't actually want what you had.
Yeah. Which I will say, you in your sales that you have done working with us and the people who have been working under you, you really do make it a point to be like, if this is not the right person to buy, don't sell them. Mm-hmm. Don't sell them, because you're literally going to ruin everyone else's on the team life when they have to deal with it, when they have to have the refund, and they're not going to be happy with you when it is a refund. Like, they would rather not have that person than deal with the drama.
Yeah. If you sell a service, like, you better sell the right person. You didn't get rid of them.
No.
Like, if you sell cars and you sling them out the door and they drive away with their car,
it's different.
It's different. You're not going to talk to them again. You're not going to get the repeat business, but it's different. If you're selling them into working with you for a year, you're going to hear from them next week.
Yeah. Or even some of our listeners, I'm thinking, who have products where it's like lashes, nails, haircut. You want that person to come back.
Right.
You need to give them a great experience, so every time they're coming back to you. So very interesting. Okay, let's talk about team, because you are now a leader in sales. So talk to me about your approach to leadership.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing with leadership is creating an environment that people can be successful in, right? So they need to trust you, and they need to feel like they can come to you when they need help, and they need to feel supported and all those types of things, right? So it's about creating the right environment. We
always joke that the team is drinking Kellen's Kool-Aid. How do you get them to drink your Kool-Aid?
Take a personal interest in them.
Okay.
Take a genuine interest, right? It's the same with selling someone.
Yeah.
You should be connected with those people, and they should feel cared about. And I think if you do that, you're able to you can get those players, those coaches players, right? Those people that will play extra hard on a fourth down and really show up for you more than, just like a regular kind of corporate job.
Yeah, clocking in, clocking out. I agree. And they all like love you, and really, I mean, we have such a family environment, and not everybody listening whose businesses are all sorts of different businesses, they're not always going to have that.
Sure.
But it is something that we're not just saying like, it's a family culture. Like, it's that. That's why people say, oh, I'm in the family. It's because we actually like each other and take interest in each other. We don't preach and tout that it's a family business. Once you're in, you're like, I'm in the family.
Yeah. I know, it's such like a cringy thing.
Yeah, because everybody else hates family culture at work.
Totally. Well, and especially, I mean, you have people that like on their interviews are like, we're family here. And it's
like, no.
Really, it's like, really, your family at Microsoft?
Yeah.
50,000 employees? Come on. Like,
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Yeah, but it is true. I feel like we don't tout it, but it becomes it later down the line, and it's because of that. It's because we actually all like hanging out with each other, and I want to know about you guys' life, and you want to know about their lives, and it just trickles down. How do you build the team of just like killer sales guys? Like how, and are there telltale signs when somebody's checking out?
Yeah. So as far as building the team, I'm a big believer in don't send your ducks to Eagle School.
Okay.
You don't want to be the person that's teaching someone how to sell.
Yep.
I was in that role when I was taught to sell when I was in fitness. That's like a very entry level sales job.
Yeah.
You're willing to hire a hungry young 20-year-old who doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
And teach them and set them loose. The problem is what happens, that hungry young 20-year-old becomes a 21-year-old that has experience in sales now.
Yep.
And goes, man, why am I working 6 days a week and not making any money?
Yeah.
Then they go, now they have experience and they go work somewhere else.
Yep.
So I think don't send your ducks to Eagle School. Find eagles and train them in your industry and tighten them up and stay sharp on them.
Yeah.
And then as far as, if someone's checking out, right, you're going to see it in the numbers, right?
Yeah.
If someone starts to dwindle, you know that there's something else going on.
Yeah, I think it's really true. Tell me about your best interview, when someone's interviewed with you and you're like, oh my God, killer.
Yeah, I've had some good interviews. I've had some great interviews. I think we just hired not too long ago Phil on the team, and he's been absolutely crushing it.
Amazing.
And I think there's a great example, right? He came from the fitness industry. He started as like a front desk person in fitness, learned how to sell, became an assistant manager, became a sales manager, became a general manager, had a lot of experience, knew what he needed to do, knows how selling works. Interviewed with him. He knows all the stuff about selling. So what do we have to teach him? Just our industry. And now we're just a month and a half, 2 months in with him, and he's crushing it. He's leading the team.
Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. I know my brother, when he used to do hiring, he'd always be like, show me a picture of your girlfriend. Because if their girlfriend's hot, they're usually a good salesman.
I mean.
Right? And Phil's girlfriend, or wife now. Doctor, banging. She is beautiful and smart. It's like, okay, Phil.
If you're not punching up, I don't know if I'd hire you. I mean, my wife's a lot better looking than I am.
Tessie is stunning. She is smart. Yeah, it's been working out. It's a good method. We like to see the girlfriends. Show us your girlfriend.
Exactly. I mean, it's not ethical, but it works. And, I mean, girls like the funny guy, but really, maybe they like the sales guy.
Maybe they like the sales guy. You know what? He wins them over. Tell me about your worst interview. What's something that's just like, oh my God, we're not going with this person?
Worst interview I had, he was driving. He was in his car. And he was on his phone. And so he's on his phone. He's got me with the side angle. And he's
like, it's not a Tesla. Like, it's not driving itself.
No, this man's driving. And I was like, hey, are you okay? Is it a good time? Oh, yeah, I can talk. He's going through tunnels. It's, it's on Zoom. It's breaking up. So I think that interview was maybe 10 minutes. and I was like, all right, man, well, we'll let you know.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's not good. Okay, let's talk about failure in business, in sales. What is like a big, mistake that you've made in sales and learned from, but what's a big mistake?
The biggest mistake is letting a bad day turn into a bad week and a bad week turn into a bad month.
Yep.
Because if you can't, it's like the erase the chalkboard, right? Yeah. You have to, if you have a bad day and then you come into your sales the next day, you're going to continually you're going to continue to have bad days because your energy's not right. Your vibe's not right. I used to say when I was in fitness, we called them the training gods. Mm-hmm. And I always told people look, you always make a sale, you figure out your closing rate. And it sounds so crazy because it's like, how could that be true, right? But just like you figure out your closing rate, your show percentage, and you say, okay, if I get a deal every X amount of appointments and every X amount of appointments, I need to make this many calls, just go make the calls.
Yeah.
Like if you need 50 calls to get this amount of appointments that gets you the deal.
Yep.
It sounds crazy because you think well, what if I don't? But I swear to you, so many times I would go do the calls and be like, all right, I do 50 calls. Nobody books, nobody does anything. And that's when you have somebody walk in the door and go, do you guys sell personal training here? That's when you get a blessing from the training gods, the sales gods. And it's the same in any industry. Figure out your percentages, go work until you hit the number that it takes to get a deal. And one will come out of the blue.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, I know I'm technically in sales now too.
Yeah.
And I feel I'm very easy to sell. I'm an easy sale. Are you an easy sell?
I'm an easy sell, but I'm a pain in the ass while I'm there.
Okay, tell me about it.
I'm not like booking a call with you to find out about your product.
Okay.
I will know about your product, whatever it is. Like if it's a car, if it's a service, I'm going to do a ton of research. I'm going to be on Reddit. I'm going to be on, if it's a car, I'm on Edmunds. I'm going to know
everything.
I'm going to know everything.
Okay.
I'm going to know if it's a car I'm leasing, I'm going to know what the residual is on that car when I walk in. I'm going to know what the interest rates are that you can offer. I'm going to know what the local incentives are that you currently have on offer.
Oh, you're going deep.
I'm going to go deep. I'm going to spend the time researching so that when I walk in, I know. And like, yeah, I'm going to be a pain in the butt, but you're going to get a deal today.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be a pain in the butt along the way.
Okay.
And I'm going to want some free stuff. I want you to make me feel special.
Okay. So what are things that you're looking for in that conversation with them? Like, are there certain things that they say where you're like, oh, that just indicated there's more wiggle room? Or like, oh, this guy's really telling the truth?
Yeah. I'm very transparent with people.
Okay.
So like when I bought not my current car, but my car before that.
Yeah.
I walked in, I already knew I wanted the car. I'm just very transparent. I say, hey, look, if you can get me these numbers, I'm leaving with a car today.
Yeah.
The key part there is don't demand something that is impossible. That's why you need to do your homework. Because otherwise you look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Because you're like, well, I want the payment to be $200. And they're like, sir.
Never going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you look foolish.
Yes.
And they're talking about you in the back office.
Yeah.
But if you walk in and you're like, I want the payment to be $498.70. And they're like, damn, that is the bottom dollar. Then you'll probably get it.
Okay. So research is the key.
Research is everything.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the old, if you got an hour to sharpen it, to cut down a tree, right?
Okay.
Spend most of it sharpening your axe.
There you go. What are some dead giveaways that somebody is going to buy or interested in buying?
It's all about the questions that they start asking you.
Okay.
Right? If somebody's asking you, well, what does it cost?
Yeah.
That right there is the number one indicator.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to see, like, does this fit my budget?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question that I'm going to ask when I'm really interested. So, like, yeah, you should be attempting to get the sale and asking for the sale, but, like, you should be getting some indicators back that this is a two-way street. And they're interested in, and for us, right, like selling a course, you know, when somebody starts asking, like, where is the course? So, okay, we're future pacing. Like, where am I flying into? Oh, okay. Now
you're flying.
Now you're flying. Like, you know, so you should be setting those standards throughout your call as well, or throughout your sales pitch, is assuming that close throughout the whole deal, not just at the end. But when I'm talking to somebody, I'm going to say things like, when you come out, you're going to meet so-and-so. Mm-hmm. Not if you come out, when.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. When do you walk away from a deal?
Personally?
Yeah.
When I'm a buyer?
Yeah. We'll go that first.
Okay. Yeah. So if I'm a buyer, I'm only walking away from the deal if they're not playing ball.
Okay.
And oftentimes it could be timing, right? You don't want to talk to the guys when they've got two deals up that day. Like if I'm buying a car, I'm going on the 30th on a Sunday.
Okay.
Like I'm going to go when it's a slow day, when they have time for me, when you walk in the dealership and they're like, thank God, it's a customer, right? So if you're not getting that kind of response, or personally, I'm really big on like the customer service aspect. Yeah. I'm really big on, I want to feel special because I make people feel special when I'm selling to them. Okay. So if you can't give me, and I don't care what, give me a pen, give me a ball cap, whatever it is, whatever you got to give me. I want it.
Give me some swag.
Give me some swag.
Okay. When on the opposite side of the deal, when you are selling someone, when do you just walk away?
Once they're a ghost, usually.
When they're a ghost?
When they're a ghost, that's usually a pretty good indicator.
You don't go ghost hunting? Okay. Are you, like, let's say you are at that car dealership. And do you ever play the game of like, well, that's not going to work. Like, I'm going to walk and like pretend to walk? Or you only do that if you're really legit walking?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you go in transparently, you know the numbers that can be hit. Yeah. I just will basically just stay there and just keep
going.
Just keep going.
Keep going.
Just keep going. Because they're going to bring you back the numbers. And a lot of times it's not the sales guy's fault, right? Especially if you're talking about a car. Yep. It's the finance manager is still trying to build it out. And they do a lot of tricky things. And you just got to take the time. And I think the one thing is when they bring you the numbers, what do? They sit down with you. Yep. They stare at you. Yep. Tell them to go away. Oh. Because that's putting you under pressure. Even me, I bought a lot of cars. I bought motorcycles. Like, they want to sit there and go like, is that good? Are you ready to go? That's a high pressure sale. The first thing I do when they hand me the numbers, great, give me a minute with this. I'm going to make a couple phone calls. Or I'll bring somebody with me. They walk away. I'm going to converse and I'm going to look at all of the numbers. Okay. Because that's what they do, right? You go in to buy. I just bought a motorcycle about a week ago. Yeah. It's like, here's the price. And then you get the line items and there's 30 line items, a freight charge and this charge and an assembly charge and this. Look at them. Yeah. And then when they come back, say like, what is tire protection for $700? Oh, if you pop a tire, we'll get... I'll buy a $700 tire then.
Yeah.
Take that off. So know what you're buying.
Okay. I love it. Okay. According to HubSpot, more than 40% of sales professionals say that prospecting is the hardest part of sales. Do you agree or disagree?
That's tough. I think the hardest part of sales for most people is organization.
Ah.
Because the reality is it's like the inverse like characteristic that most salespeople are going to have.
Yeah, most are not organized.
Most are not organized,
at
right?
all.
Most are going to be the shoot from the hip kind of person.
Okay.
But what pays you is actually calling John on Thursday when he told you he was ready to go.
Yeah.
Like you will lose deals just by not being on top of your business.
Wow.
So I think like, yeah, prospecting is difficult, but like, what are you doing? You're really just making phone calls, right? That's just time. That's just energy.
Yeah.
And that can be a burnout, but the thing that's going to actually make people money is being organized and not missing deals.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get the laydowns. You're going to get the one call closes.
Yep.
If you're a great salesperson, you're going to miss the little ones that get you over the edge because you weren't on top of your business.
You weren't organized. Okay. What's 3 tactical tips that any entrepreneur or young boss listening, really should be focused on when it comes to sales?
Hire great people.
Okay.
And invest in them.
Yep.
Make sure that they're a believer in the product.
Okay.
And I think that's the biggest thing, right? It's like have a great product that people can believe in.
Yeah.
For instance, like when I was in fitness, I was with one gym and then I left that gym to go to another.
Yeah.
When I was selling personal training, it was a 25-minute personal training session. Mm-hmm. I know that's not enough.
Right.
So how long can you sell something that isn't
that you don't believe in?
Don't believe in. Okay. It doesn't work.
Yep.
Right? I think that's the biggest thing. Like I now sell something that I know works.
Yeah.
I've seen it work many times. So when I'm convicted on the phone, it's real.
Yeah.
If you're selling a training package doesn't get anybody in shape, that's going to be tough to sell.
I wrote down some things that I think are top tips I've learned from you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Volume. I feel like you've even taught that to some of your guys. They answer the phone. They're like, "Hi, this is Joe." Da-da-da-da. And you're like, "Oh, hell no." Get on the phone and be like, "Hey, this is Kellen from the RL Academy." Like use that volume.
Yeah.
Do you train them on volume?
Oh, yeah. You need to be in a place that you're comfortable talking loud.
Yeah.
Like you need to be in an office. You need to be in your house. You need to be somewhere that you are not having to whisper into the phone. You should be setting the tone and setting the pace. And obviously you should be matching someone's energy. Like you don't talk to the person from New Jersey the same way as you talk to grandma from Texas.
Yes.
But you should still feel like the authority on the phone.
The authority.
And you can't do that if you're in the airport trying to talk under yourself.
Yes. Okay. I also wrote confidence. I feel like every sales call I've ever watched of you, you are so confident, you are prepared, you are ready. No matter what question they throw at you, it doesn't throw you off your rocker. You're just like, take it with ease. And then, are we ready to go back? And then you go back to basically where you want to be. I feel like confidence is huge.
Yeah.
I also wrote parroting. You are amazing. I could say a sentence and you will literally repeat it perfectly. Is that something you talk to them about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how well that can be learned.
Yeah.
But it is a huge skill that helps people because I can regurgitate like nobody's business.
Like nobody's business.
like I love watching Jeopardy because
you'll memorize them all?
Well, I won't memorize them all, but if I hear something, it's in there now.
Okay.
Like I know a ton of dumb facts. So I don't know, that could be a good indicator. Like if you're someone that you always know dumb facts, you probably have a memory and you could probably learn a script and you could probably make it your own pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's huge. The confidence is huge. And just knowing you got to believe.
You got to believe in it.
You got to believe in it.
Okay. I wrote practice. And then I wrote, because I do think that you practice all the time and you are just, the more you practice, the more you've said it, consistency, just being willing to have those at bats. You just have to keep going, keep going. But then the last one I wrote is a physical state of being. I feel like I've seen you really practice that where it's you're not just taking the call, randomly. You are present, ready to go before you take that call. You've almost had your moment of whether it's meditation, whether it's jumping on the trampoline, whatever it is, you get in the state you need to so that you're fresh and ready for that call. It's not an inconvenience for them.
Yeah. I mean, look, you shouldn't be taking a sales call the same way you call your dad to chat about the game on Sunday.
Right.
Go to work, go to your office, go to wherever you need to be and focus.
Yes.
Have a planner. Know what you're going to do each day. Have a notebook, have a pen in front of you and be ready to take on that call.
Yep.
Or that interaction if you're in person.
Those are my tips that you've taught me.
Well, there we go. I think those are great.
Okay, we are constantly sending TikToks back and forth about, sales and corporate bros.
Yeah.
Why do you think sales get such a bad rep on social media?
Because of bad salespeople. That's the truth, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to buy something. Nobody wants to be sold.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that, like I said, that car dealership interaction where someone is sitting on top of them.
Yeah.
Like like I said, even being in sales, it's still uncomfortable for me.
Yep.
When you have a sales manager and a salesperson both sit down with the numbers and go like, just look at you.
You ready?
And like people hate that, especially if you're not in sales and you don't know the game and you feel uncomfortable already and you feel like, am I being taken advantage of right now? Probably. So like, I understand why people do that. And I think it's all about knowing what you want when you go in, being prepared. And like, if you're not the person who's going to like stand up for yourself, take someone that is. Take someone that will tell them to like take a hike while you talk about the numbers.
Yeah.
So I think that's huge.
Yep. Right now, there are so many people in sales, not just in sales, but it feels like everywhere someone is trying to sell us something. If you're scrolling, you're being sold something, right? You're watching TV, you're being sold something. It's just constant. We can't stop being sold something everywhere we go. How do you rise above that and stand out from everything we're being sold?
Sell a good product. Yeah. I mean, like obviously you're going to need all the skills. You're going to need to learn all of the stuff and be able to converse with people. But at the end of the day, if you're selling a lousy product, I don't care how great of a salesperson you are.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to overcome that. You probably could be more successful being a bad salesperson selling the right product than the best salesperson selling the wrong product.
Yep.
And don't you want to sleep at night?
Yeah.
Don't you want to know that you didn't sell somebody something that doesn't work?
There you go. I think the thing that's really been on my mind and heart lately is that people don't trust anymore. Because so many bad salespeople are out there and because people are peddling products that don't actually do what they say they're going to do. So no one trusts anything anymore. Also, we're being told one day the sky is falling, the earth is flat, this is what's happening. And so everything feels scary. Should I trust you? Where is this information coming from? And so becoming a trustworthy person to them is going to take time. More conversations, consistency, having a good product, having people who've used the product who are successful with it saying, hey, look at me, I actually did it. There's a lot more involved in sales these days than back in the day when you could take somebody's word for it. People don't want to take the word for it.
No, it's all about relationship selling. And again, just transparency within your conversations, right?
Yeah.
If I'm catching the vibe that someone doesn't trust me or the company or the product, I'm just going to ask, hey, Isabel, it seems like maybe we're not on the same page. It sounds like maybe this doesn't make sense. Is it me? Is it the company? Is it the product? Is there something that you don't trust about it?
There you go.
Give them the opportunity to tell you what is wrong.
Right.
Right.
Like,
A lot of times,
I read a bad review.
Totally.
Yeah.
And get it up front, right? So that you know what the problem is. Because a lot of times, as a salesperson, again, not only being scared to ask the right question, but just thinking you're going to just barrel forward into this sales and they're going to accidentally read you their credit card number. It's not going to happen. Until someone actually is like closed, which means like they are closed on the idea, they are committed to doing it.
Yeah.
It's going to flop back open on you, right? And I've heard the sales calls where someone's 432 click and they hang up in the middle.
No.
Yeah. Middle of a credit card number, right? Because the person was pressured enough to get to the close, but they aren't closed. Wow. They're not actually sold. You call back, John, no answer. Call back the next day, straight to voicemail, you're blocked.
Savage. Oh my God. Okay. This has been so fun and interesting. I hope everybody listening has gotten a ton of great insight and information about this. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It was a really fun episode, and I hope that everybody listening learned a lot about sales, became a little less unafraid of sales, and maybe got some good strategic tips for hiring on salespeople. So thanks for listening to another episode of Young Boss with your host, Isabel Garino. Be sure to like, share, and follow on Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and let us know, are you afraid to ask the question? We'll see you next time.